Hi. You're watching.
Daisuke was standing on the pavement across the street. While waiting for the signal to turn green, he was looking at his phone to find a new manga to read. He was browsing through his manga website and found a new story to binge. He was excited to find a new reincarnation story. As the signal turned green, he put his phone away and considered continuing to read once he got back home. He wished to check the new manga first, even though the last one he read was still his favorite. While he was crossing the street, a bright light suddenly appeared before him. He turned to check what it was, only to find a huge truck moving towards him at great speed. The truck driver panicked after losing control of the vehicle. Before Daisuke could move away, the truck ran over him. People rushed over to help, but it was too late. They only found a truck overturned on its side with the apples from the container scattered around in the crash. Daisuke was buried under a pile of apples. That's how Daisuke's life came to an end. However, Daisuke woke up and found himself in an unfamiliar place. He realized that he had been hit by a truck and ended up here. No matter where he looked, it was a pure white space. He thought he was in heaven as he was dead. He couldn't understand what was going on at the moment. He heard someone calling him Mr. Furutsu. Daisuke introduced himself to the person who appeared before him. Daisuke Furutsu, aged 33, was a humble salaryman. He was an average-looking guy with dark hair. His daily routine consisted of going to the office and reading his favorite manga. He asked the other person who she was. She introduced herself as Kita, the goddess, and told him that she had come to guide his soul. Kita looked angelic in her white dress, and a flower wreath crowned her head. She was indeed a goddess. Kita felt sorry towards Furutsu and told him she was sorry for his situation. Furutsu couldn't understand why the goddess felt apologetic towards him and asked if there was some kind of mistake. Kita admitted that it was a complete mistake, as one of her subordinates who managed life in Furutsu's world had fallen asleep and caused the accident. Kita felt embarrassed as well as sorry for him. Furutsu realized that he was indeed dead. Furutsu asked Kita if he was going to be reincarnated in another world, as he was dead in his original world. Kita was shocked at his question and asked him if that's what he wanted. Furutsu was giggling to himself. He said that he was a bookworm, and in recent times, he was especially into reincarnation. Kita was surprised, since he was talking about rebirth after his death. Furutsu explained that there were a lot of different death patterns, and amongst them, dying after getting hit by a truck was the guaranteed way to reincarnation. He also added that it would be a scam not to get another life, given his situation. Kita wasn't sure about what he was talking about, but she was glad that Furutsu knew so much about rebirth. She further added that he was right, and he was being reincarnated in another world now. Furutsu felt overjoyed as he was being reincarnated just like the main characters in the manga. He asked what kind of powers he was gaining in this life. Kita was shocked that Furutsu even knew about the powers given to the reincarnators. She was also glad that Furutsu was a positive person. Kita asked Furutsu to raise his basic stats, which would help him grow stronger. She offered him the chance to pick one fate from among 10,000 cards. Furutsu inquired if those cards gave him any powers. Kita said yes, and she was willing to give one of those cards as an apology for her mistakes. Furutsu refused to concede to her mistakes. Kita offered him 5 more cards. He was happy that he could change his fate with the cards. However, Kita was worried about those unparalleled cheat cards and told him he must accept his fate, no matter what the power of the card he drew was. Furutsu asked if those cards couldn't be cancelled, but Kita stayed silent. He admitted that he was scared, but he was sure that things would turn out to be fine. Kita was once again shocked at his reply. Furutsu said that it was definitely his lucky day, as he got hit by a truck. He apologized for being optimistic. Kita was worried whether he was really lucky, but she was glad that he was positive even in such situations, and asked him to pull a card. She said that she would choose the cards carefully so that she wouldn't have any regrets. Kita warned him that some cards were useful and some were not. Furutsu said that picking was all about momentum and enthusiasm. Kita was flabbergasted at his boldness. After pondering for a long time, Furutsu picked a rare card. Kita was surprised and explained to him that it was a strength card. The card gave powers to remove limitations and a large improvement to compensate. Furutsu was excited as he had a great card. Kita pulled a second card, and it turned out to be a magician card. She said that he would be able to learn all types of magic with this card. Furutsu thought that it was indeed his lucky day, and he wished to do a wizard course. The third card she picked turned out to be the blessing card. Kita explained that no matter how much the owner of the card was cut or beheaded, they would be revived with time. Furutsu was overjoyed and cheered that he had won everything, and that he was the birth of an undead warrior. At this point, she was scared to pick the fourth card, and when she eventually did, it turned out to be a plain card. The fourth card was drawn, and Kita looked at it for a long time. Furutsu commented that it was a plain-looking one, and she was shocked at the unexpected whispering. The fourth card was a warehouse card, which gave the power of an infinite vault where things could be stored without any deterioration, except for living organisms. Kita further explained that there was only one warehouse in the world, and this card appeared as the 101st card only when the previous owner was dead or had let go of the card. It was a super rare card. She said that the card was so amazing, and all previously stored items would be transferred to Furutsu. Kita could not believe how lucky he was. Furutsu questioned whether the warehouse would have any legendary swords or something like that, and she said it might be possible. Kita finally drew the last card. Furutsu was wondering if the last card was going to be something crazy and was laughing his heart out. Kita was utterly shocked by what she had picked. She couldn't believe that she picked that card out of all the cards. She felt guilty and started crying. Furutsu joked about whether she had picked a great card that made her cry. He said that he was really lucky. Before he could finish his sentence, Kita spoke. She said she had picked a cursed card. He was clueless about the power of the cursed card. She explained that whoever draws a cursed card is reincarnated into the thing that took their life in their previous life. For instance, in the event of being killed by a beast, the person becomes a beast. If a person were to be reincarnated as an immobile thing, they would still be conscious until they turned into dust. Kita was scared of what was to become of him, and she absolutely hated the cursed card. Furutsu nonchalantly replied that he would be reincarnated as a truck. He asked Kita what he was supposed to do as a truck cannot move on its own. Kita was bawling her eyes out and said that there was a man who was reincarnated as a ship before. She explained that after spending a lot of time and effort, he was able to move on his own. The other person thought reincarnation was amazing, so Kita was sure Furutsu would be fine as well. Furutsu thought he would be reincarnated as a truck and thought it would have been amazing if he could be reincarnated as an animal. Kita said that she was sorry and told him that he had no right to refuse the power of the cards. She asked him to make his own destiny from then on. Furutsu knew he had no other choices, so he was looking forward to being reborn. Kita reminded him that after she had opened the door to the new world, he would be able to talk to her for the first 3 days. She asked him not to worry, as his soul would move on, and she blessed him. Furutsu had landed once again in an unfamiliar place. He couldn't see or hear anything. He wondered if it was his new world. Kita asked if Furutsu could hear her. He heard the voice of the goddess and said he must have been reincarnated into a truck, as he could not move after all. When the goddess Kita saw him, she was totally confused. She informed him that he had become an apple instead of a truck. Furutsu was shocked and screamed, wondering just what had become of him. Back when Furutsu was hit by a truck, he died after a pile of apples crushed him. He couldn't believe he was reincarnated into an apple of all things. He became a big, red apple in a tree, which was ready for harvest. Kita informed him that he was one of the fruits growing on a big apple tree. Furutsu didn't think there would be a day when he would be called by the number of pieces. Kita asked him not to worry, as they had 3 days to communicate with each other and she ensured they would do what they could. Furutsu said that he couldn't move, no matter how hard he tried. Kita said that he had more hope than an inanimate object, as plants are living creatures. He realized that she was right, and said that he was starting to feel motivated. He told her that he would like to use his warehouse card. Kita was glad that he spoke his mind, and told him that they might find something an apple could use. Kita said that she would imagine a box and asked him to take a peek. The box had a list which included various things such as gold coins, precious stones, food, and sleeping bags. It was a bunch of things that an apple would not need. Later, he found a scroll which contained fireball magic. She explained that whoever opens the scroll can use fireball magic. Furutsu was glad to find something of use. When he tried taking the things out, he failed miserably. As an apple, he didn't have a hand to pick things up, and he vented that he was going to spend his entire life hanging from a tree. He thought his life was over. Kita said that there were other ways. However, he was tangled up in his thoughts. He was assuring himself that he would do fine if he just hung all day, and was careful not to get harvested or attacked by a bird. He was losing his hope as time passed. Furutsu was suddenly interrupted by a voice calling him Oni-chan, The voice asked him why he was crying. He was confused and asked the goddess if she was talking to him. When the goddess said no, another voice assured Furutsu that it was talking to him. The unknown voice asked if his name was Furutsu, and introduced itself as Yggdrasil. He asked whether the goddess could hear Yggdrasil's voice, to which she said no. She further added that Yggdrasil was the name of the world tree. Furutsu said that he could hear its voice. Furutsu thought that he was able to converse with the world tree because he was a plant. The goddess was surprised to learn that Furutsu could converse with the world tree. Kita, the goddess, said that being able to talk to the world tree meant that he could converse with this world. Furutsu was glad and said that he was feeling great. However, the world tree said it was not a tree of this world. Kita found it to be strange as it was not possible for voices to reach from a different world. Furutsu said that he could hear the voice clearly, as if it were talking directly to his ear. The world tree tried to show him signals on where to find it. The voice grew louder as if it were screaming in his head. The voice came out from the warehouse box. The voice asked him if he could understand it. Kita found it unbelievable for a world tree to be inside a warehouse card. However, the world tree was found in the shape of a staff called Gridival. It was a staff made from the young branches of the world tree to destroy the evil giant. The world tree said that it used to be a human once, and after a reincarnation, it had turned into a staff. Furutsu tried reaching out for it, but he couldn't grab the staff. His structure was entirely different from that of an animal, and he realized that he couldn't take items out of the box. The world tree said that it would teach him to grab things. Kita informed him that she needed to report to the higher-ups and left him behind. The world tree explained that humans have a way of moving on their own. However, plants move by deciding on how they grow. It was like growing more cells. Though it works, it's a slow process. The world tree said that he should know how to increase his cells at an incredible speed, as he was a human once. He replied that his 5 senses weren't good enough, and he couldn't imagine himself moving. The world tree asked him to try sensing the things around him first. Animals have eyes and ears, but plants don't. However, plants can sense light and sound through their cells. The world tree asked him to sense it through his cells, and when Furutsu tried feeling it, he saw red dots all around. He could also sense green. The world tree asked him to count the dots, and he replied that there were 54 dots. The world tree said there were 55 apples, including himself, and he was the youngest apple of all. He realized all those dots were apples and wondered how he could count everything in an instant. The world tree explained that plants sense things differently from humans. For plants, every cell could look at all the dots at the same time. He thought being a plant was super convenient. A plant is not just one creature. It is made up of many cells. He could hear each and every piece swaying in the air. The sounds of rustling leaves, the vibration of sound, the murmur of the stream, and the fish, he could feel it all as an apple. The world tree was amazed at how quickly Furutsu learned it all, and complimented him. He thanked the tree for teaching him. He realized being an apple was more convenient than being a human. He could see and hear everything in all directions at the same time. He heard a scream, more vivid, moving towards him. It was a girl screaming for help as she was chased by a goblin. Furutsu saw a young girl with blonde hair being chased by a goblin. He was reminded of the typical Isekai event, which the reincarnation gods do all the time. He would make the main character encounter new enemies and friends. Furutsu wanted to help the girl, but he couldn't move from his place. She was screaming for someone to help her. The world tree realized what he was about to do, and warned him that he hadn't even practiced moving yet. Despite the world tree's warning, he tried dropping to hit the goblin. However, they were far away for Furutsu to move. The world tree said to him that there was a boundary between his mother and him, and asked him to let go of his hand one by one. Furutsu imagined his hand as a branch and loosened it. He was trying to drop from the tree, but it was too high. He was debating whether he would survive the height. He knew he had the card that had powers to revive with time. The world tree encouraged him and wished him good luck. On the count of 1, he jumped and hit the head of the goblin. He was hurt and didn't like the feeling. He could sense the pain of an apple. However, he could not take out the goblin. When he looked back, there were 3 of those goblins trying to hurt the girl. He remembered the world tree's lesson. His cells grew more and more, and when they increased, he started moving. When the goblins realized an apple was moving, they shifted their attention to it. Furutsu used all his strength to split the cells apart. The goblin who had attacked earlier tried to crush the apple. However, He rolled away with all his might. The goblin chased after the apple. The World Tree asked him not to make fun of the goblins, as they became furious. One of the goblins ordered the others to concentrate on the girl. As they proceeded to attack the girl, Furutsu couldn't help her anymore, rolling helplessly. There was an anonymous voice alerting him to the confirmation of linked activation to the power card. Furutsu couldn't decipher who was talking. The voice alerted him once again that the luck of cell division had been enhanced by the power card. It was indeed an announcement from the cards of destiny. It stated that his upper growth limit was removed, and the maximum level growth correction would be applied. The voice congratulated him on receiving a bonus for discovering new powers, and warned him to watch out for sudden power manifestations. He was confused by all the random alerts popping out of nowhere. However, he gathered all his powers to slam into the goblins. Rushing towards the goblins at great speed, Furutsu rolled at high speed. He hit a goblin with great force, snapping his neck and tearing the goblin's head apart. Even after hitting, he rolled more only to realize that he couldn't find the goblins anywhere around him. When he looked down, that's when he saw that he had flown into the sky. Furutsu realized he flew all the way towards the sky by himself. The World Tree rushed after him. Looking down from the sky, he saw that the goblin he had hit previously was lying dead. The other goblins were aware of the situation and rushed to escape from the place. The young girl passed out after the sudden chase. The World Tree cheered at him and said that he had done great. Before Furutsu could realize it, he was falling from the sky. He forgot that he was high up in the air. He knew if he fell from that height, he would definitely die. The World Tree reminded him of the blessing card, which would revive him over time. Yet he was worried that he would be hurting until it healed. The World Tree asked him to make more cells, but he could not gather them in this situation. While he was falling down, Furutsu wondered what would happen to Yggdrasil, the World Tree, after he died. The World Tree would have to stay locked up in the warehouse until he was back to normal. The World Tree wished to help him, and it unleashed its power. The staff was glowing brightly, passing on its energy to the girl. For the first time, the girl had heard the voice of the World Tree. Just before Furutsu was about to hit the ground, the girl caught the apple. He realized that he had not shattered, and was perfectly fine. She crouched down to make sure that he was fine. When Furutsu asked the girl who she was, the girl started bawling her eyes out. The girl asked if he was hurt. When she didn't find any damage to the apple, she smiled happily. He was confused as to why she was glad that he did not get hurt. He questioned who she was and if he had known her before, which made her start crying again. Furutsu consoled her and told her not to cry. He promised her that they would always be together forever. Then he realized that he had not even introduced himself to her. Furutsu told her that he was Furutsu Daisuke, a 33-year-old man in his past life, and was reincarnated into a Fultz apple, 0 years old, the youngest of 55 apples in a tree. He confessed to her that he had not seen anyone as cute as her in either of the worlds. The young girl was stunned at his confession, but was happy to hear that he called her cute. She asked him if he really found her cute, and he guaranteed it. The girl said she was happy and thanked him. She also called him Oni-chan. There was only one person who would call him that. He took a glance at the girl and found the familiar staff in her hand. He wondered if what he thought was true. The girl asked if he had forgotten her and introduced herself as Yggdrasil, the staff. The young girl turned out to be the Yggdrasil, with her Gridival in her hand. Furutsu couldn't grasp what was going on, yet he found it incredible. He wondered if she was playing double heroine. He found her very cute, but the realization hit him suddenly. He was still an apple after all. The view shifts to that of the outside of an inn as the girl who was in danger just a while back tried to make her point and persuaded others into believing that the apple was magical. She reminds the person in front of her about his promise that if someone can use magic, then they can become an adventurer. With her overly enthusiastic hand slamming on the furniture, Furutsu, who was on the table, rolls off the edge and falls to the ground with a few bounces. The girl is worriedly surprised and apologizes to Furutsu, referring to him as Apple-san. While she pushes the apple against her cheeks in a smother, Furutsu starts blushing in shyness. He starts wondering just how all this came to happen in the first place. Thinking back to when he had scared away the goblins, the girl who had fallen unconscious due to fear just came to her senses and found the apple, which was Furutsu, lying on the ground. With a sudden shriek, she screamed as she remembered she was being attacked by goblins before she had fallen unconscious. However, when she notices that the goblin was lying dead on the floor and there was no other goblin in sight, She is surprised and wonders just what might have happened. Coming to an absurd realization, she picks up Furutsu with a smile while saying he must be the one who did it. With a shout of joy, a smile blooms on her face, which surprises Furutsu. However, much to Furutsu's surprise, the girl ends up putting Furutsu in her traveling bag. He realizes he is about to be carried and taken away by her. And off the girl had gone, trotting away to town, taking Furutsu with her. Returning to the present, the goddess has also come back to Furutsu's side with a confused expression and apologizes for the sudden disappearance, stating that she had panicked. At the present moment, the girl was talking to Mr. Holmer, who happens to be an A-rank adventurer. She stresses over the fact that this is an important topic. While Holmer tells her to calm down, she simply cannot bring herself to do so. She reiterates her story, telling him that she was surrounded by goblins back then, with no hope in sight. And just when she had thought she would be done for, it had activated. And by it, she means the magic apple that she is now holding in her hands. Furutsu feels kind of flustered on hearing that he was being called a magic apple. While he is considering the absolute absurdity of the current situation, he finds the girl, the goddess, and Yggdrasil all smiling at how cute the apple is. Meanwhile, the others in the inn who had been staring at the girl and at Holmer for a while now are taking notice of the weird claims she was making. They start whispering among themselves that there is no way that could be magic. Holmer questions her and asks if that is how she had defeated the goblins. She says that that was not all, either. Apparently, they had encountered even more ferocious things on the road, which she had identified as cedars. However, that happened to be the straw that broke the camel's back. Hearing this absurd claim, all the people in the inn roared in laughter. They mocked her, saying that she should stop joking around like that, referring to her as Fressa. Fressa tried to refute their mockeries by shouting that she was speaking the absolute truth, and told them that this apple had beaten the cedars to a pulp. The guys started laughing madly yet again as they heard this absurd statement. Cedars were B-class monsters. They simply could not believe that Fressa, who did not even know foundational level magic, could have ever defeated them. Furutsu, who was watching all this, thought to himself that it was all pretty annoying. Holmer stepped in at the moment and shouted at everyone to stop laughing. He looked over at the concerned Fressa. Holmer said to her that although he does not doubt her, it was undeniable that cedars were monsters that were difficult to escape from, and yet she claimed that she had defeated them. He asked her if she could present proof to back up her claims. Giving it some serious thought, she glanced over at the apple, Furutsu, sitting on the table. A bright idea struck her head as she told Holmer that she indeed has the proof that he needs. At this moment, the apple was wondering how the various people in the inn did not believe them. He glanced at Yggdrasil, telling her to ready up as he was prepared and ready to show the people there what he can do. Fressa, at the moment, told the apple to pull it out. Furutsu watches as Yggdrasil helps him access the warehouse. For some reason, the cards of fate had changed to match Furutsu's body, and the unusable warehouse card was now usable. This was because Yggdrasil was now able to help him take things out of the warehouse. Tugging with ease, Yggdrasil pulled out the corpse of a freshly slain cedar, right out of her bag. Seeing the dead cedar, all the people in the inn were silenced as they stared at the dead body in shock. Seeing their speechless expressions, both Yggdrasil and Fressa wore smug faces, and even Furutsu felt extremely satisfied at the sight in the inn. Holmer was just as surprised on seeing the corpse, but was more interested in the apple from where the corpse had appeared. Fressa openly told him her intention of wanting to permanently refer to the apple as the magic apple. Although frustrated with the name, Furutsu was somehow reminded of when Fressa had been just as surprised and freaked out when she was trying to fit the cedar corpse into the dimensional storage box that the magic apple had conjured. Although the corpse was right in front of his eyes, Holmer was still deep in thought. He was still very much hesitant about letting Fressa join the guild. However, on sensing his reluctance, Fressa immediately spoke up and shouted, saying she had shown him the evidence and she sincerely hoped he would keep his end of the promise. After holding onto his chin for a minute or so and deeply contemplating various things, he finally looked over at her with one eye. With a final smile, he told her that he would allow her to join the Braves Guild. Fressa was extremely happy and hugged Furutsu in joy. She thanked the apple for helping her achieve her goal, while Furutsu thought that that was the entire point of him being a magician in the first place. But right at that moment, Holmer put a dampener on her excitement as he informed her that she is free to join the guild only on the condition that she passes the exam the next day. Fressa is utterly surprised as she complains that she had not heard anything about that before. Holmer simply tells her that it is common knowledge, but she just did not know. At this point, Furutsu is convinced that he has somehow involved himself with a troublesome person. Just how is this going to turn out for him in the near future?